Great. Seems like we have a good number of people joining at this point. As a few more will trickle in, I'll go ahead and do a quick introduction. So this is Alumni Ventures Seed Fund webinar panel discussion on the future of work, challenges and solutions. This is one of the most rapidly evolving markets we're seeing here in the venture ecosystem that we're working in every day. And we've made a number of investments recently in the space. So here to profile some of the work we're doing there and introduce you to a few of the founders that we're excited to be supporting. Quick note, Amanda, if you want to move ahead. So just some disclosures. This presentation is for information purposes only and is not intended as an offer to sell securities or a solicitation of an offer to buy securities. More can be found on this at our website, av-funds.com/disclosures. So quick agenda today. First, introduce ourselves, Jason and myself and our team here. Do a little bit of background if you're new to Alumni Ventures or to our seed fund on who we are, what we're doing. We'll try not to spend too much time on that, but just as a quick introduction or reintroduction, Jason will take us through some of the work he's been doing. He published a blog recently on this topic that covers some of the points and areas that we're seeing rapidly evolve with respect to future of work. So we'll talk through that. And then Jason will lead us in a panel discussion. We have 3 panelists, all founders of portfolio companies of ours, who will come onto the screen and join us in a little bit here. And we'll use that time for a roundtable discussion and Q&A. So we can move ahead. So first, personal introductions. I'm Ron Levin, managing partner of the Alumni Ventures Seed Fund. I've been here at Alumni for close to 5.5 years now, previously with our Yard Ventures team, our fund for the Harvard alumni community. I was actually an investor in our funds before I came to work here as well. So have been around alumni in one form or another for quite a while, since early days. I've spent my career at the intersection primarily of travel and technology. I've served in various roles, from being a management consultant to corporate to a founder. So co-founded and was the first CEO of a travel tech platform based in Barcelona called TravelPerk, which is a company that's now raised several $100 million in venture capital and is a unicorn company, which one of my co-founders is still leading today. But I moved back to the US in 2016 and transitioned into investing, where I get to work with lots of great entrepreneurs who are solving all kinds of really big problems. So excited to be supporting that in this role as an investor. I am a graduate of Babson College and Harvard Business School, and tried to parlay all of my experiences, academic and practical, into my job as a very much a generalist investor here, leading our seed fund now. Also published a book last year called Higher Purpose Venture Capital, which really delves into 50 venture-backed startups, some of which we have invested in and others not, but all have the common theme of solving large societal problems. And I think it's important with our venture dollars that we work to solve some of the bigger problems that we face in the world. Mira is a part of our team here. She's a partner on our fund out of our Menlo Park office. Jason and I are here in Boston, but we've got the country covered coast to coast. Not here with us today, but she brings a wealth of experience both as an operator and an investor to the table, and has been with us here at Alumni Ventures for a few years now as well. Jason, who will actually be leading most of our discussion here today, an associate on our fund, and I will let him introduce himself.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you all for joining us again today. My name is Jason Bird. I'm an associate here on the Seed Fund at Alumni Ventures. Been with Alumni Ventures for a little bit over 2 years, initially working on the Harvard Fund, actually alongside Ron as well, for a little bit before transitioning over to the Seed Fund. Prior to entering VC, I was studying entrepreneurship also at Babson College. And just as a little personal nugget, some industries or markets that I'm personally passionate about investing into are the gaming and the real estate spaces. So thank you.
Great. So Alumni Ventures, if you're new to us, we have over 10,000 individual investors that have already made investments through us. We are America's largest venture capital firm for individual investors. We work with individual accredited investors who are looking to diversify their portfolio with the alternative asset class known as venture capital. We were actually the most active venture capital firm in the United States the last 2 years, according to PitchBook, which actively tracks our industry. This year, we were also named one of the top 20 VC firms in North America by CB Insights, a market research firm. So we're proud that we're not just active, but we are also one of the higher performing venture capital firms out there. Since 2014, we have raised over $1.3 billion in capital from our investors and have deployed that capital into over 1,400 different companies. Our firm is about 120 people, including 40 full-time investors, and we're spread across 5 offices. Our corporate headquarters is in Manchester, New Hampshire, and then we have investment teams around the country in Boston, New York, Chicago, and Menlo Park. So we can move to the next slide. The seed fund. So Jason and I work full-time on our seed fund. We are currently investing out of our 7th fund, just focused on pre-seed and seed investing. And we are actually in the process of starting to raise our 8th fund as we work with annual fundraising cycles. So we have annual vintages, new portfolios every year. Why we like this stage of investing? It is the stage that has historically generated some of the most interesting returns within venture and within investments broadly. If you look at historical data, obviously historical returns are not necessarily an indication of future results, but historically has done very well. And it is an asset class that requires patience and a degree of uncertainty, as it can take many years for these companies to evolve and actually generate exits. We see this as likely a 10-year fund, but that's not set in stone. Many companies will exit sooner than that, and some companies may exit later than that as well, but that gives you a rough timeline of the horizon that we look at once you invest with us. This isn't like a stock that you can buy and sell on a daily basis. So it comes with an element of risk and uncertainty, but historically it's been an asset class that has outperformed other forms of investing. We do believe in the power law. This basically states that with a well-diversified large portfolio, you have the opportunity to find enough companies that can potentially generate a significant return. In some cases, just 2 or 3 companies may return an entire portfolio, which will hopefully compensate for the fact that some of the companies will not survive and will not return anything. But some of the outsized returns will more than make up for it. At least that's the principle that we follow in our investing strategy. We are planning to build a very diverse portfolio with our coming fund, as we are doing right now. So with next year's fund, probably looking at around 40 to 50 deals within the portfolio. We are investing over a 12 to 18-month horizon, and we diversify across sectors by design, so no particular thesis other than to represent what's happening in the venture ecosystem broadly. We are also geography agnostic. We will invest in deals globally if we find the right opportunities, and we co-invest alongside many different well-established lead investors, generally always well-established VC firms that have a strong track record and we know are highly relevant to the opportunity. We work to secure pro rata rights. We do like to do follow-on investments in companies that are performing well. When we have an opportunity to put more money to work in a company that is clearly showing that it can perform and grow, we like to do that. Our fund is offered at a minimum of just $25,000. It used to be in the old days, you couldn't get into a venture capital firm without potentially millions of dollars. So we are really working to democratize the asset class, and our minimum is only $25,000 to participate in our fund. More information will be included. You will receive an email following this presentation with a recording and slides that go into more detail about our fund and ways to reach out to us if you'd like more information. We also do offer syndications, so approximately once a week, give or take, we offer the opportunity to invest in a specific deal that we find highly promising, kind of the cream of the crop of what we're seeing in terms of the deals that we get to invest in and where we're able to secure allocation. And you only have the opportunity to invest in those deals if you already are an investor in at least one of our funds. So that's probably what I want to say for now on Alumni Ventures and our seed fund. Happy to answer more questions later, of course. But I want to turn it over to Jason to give a little bit of an introduction to the topic of future of work and describe some of the research that he's been doing and publishing of late, and set the stage for our panel discussion today. Jason.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it. And thank you all again for joining us in today's webinar on the future of work. As many of you are aware, the workplace is evolving very rapidly. This is driven by new technologies, shifting economic forces, and changing societal expectations. In a recent blog post that I wrote alongside our seed fund interns Simon and Isaiah, we explored some of these key trends that are shaping this new world of work and the excitement investment opportunities that are emerging as a result of these trends. One major trend that we observed was the rise of the gig economy. More and more people are leaving their traditional 9-to-5 jobs in favor of flexible, tech-driven work. Freelancers and independent contractors, especially in industries like ride sharing, are at the forefront of this movement. Next, we saw an increase in upskilling and education technology. With AI and automation constantly changing job requirements, professionals nowadays need to continuously gain new skills to remain competitive in this market. In the remote workspace, we saw that it's been cemented as kind of a place in the modern workplace, no longer just a pandemic trend. It's now a widely used model, with about 70% of organizations globally adopting some form of hybrid work. Another key shift is in the role of AI and automation, which obviously has been exploding over the last few months. Once known as experimental tools, these technologies are now becoming essential for improving productivity, streamlining processes, and driving different innovations. And then lastly, identity and access management tech has become extremely crucial as security threats continue to increase. These systems are vital in protecting identities, ensuring a smooth, secure access to digital platforms. Here at Alumni Ventures, and especially on the seed fund, we are actively investing in companies and in technologies that are redefining the future of work. To give a couple examples outside of our wonderful panelists that are joining today, we invested in a company called Gridwise, which provides analytics, tracking, and real-time insights for rideshare and delivery drivers. Another portfolio company of ours, Vero Skills, offers coding tutorials and courses to bridge the gap between education and employment, helping recruiters find more qualified candidates. And then we also invested in a company called DropStat, an AI-driven platform that is revolutionizing healthcare staffing by predicting and filling shift gaps. Now with that, I'm excited to dive a little bit deeper into some of these themes and invite our incredible panelists to come off of mute and come on camera, please. Awesome. Thank you guys again for joining us today. To kick things off, would be great if each of you could just introduce yourselves and maybe give a quick 30-second to a minute overview on what your companies do. Kurt, would be great to start with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much for having me here today. My name is Kurt Chisholm, the CEO of LeaseUp. LeaseUp's a data and transaction management platform for commercial real estate deals. So we help tenants as they're expanding out, adding new locations around the world. We help them work with their commercial real estate brokers. It's a cloud-based solution to help them facilitate the transactions, working directly with brokers to help them work with their clients as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Vishal?
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. My name is Vish, Vishal, but you can call me Vish, it's fine. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SoWork. So we basically build virtual offices, virtual workplaces for teams who are either remote or hybrid. Then we deploy these bots into the workplaces to help people do their work more efficiently. So if you picture something like a game like Animal Crossing or The Sims, actually the guy, one of the most instrumental guys who built The Sims is one of my favorite angels in our company. So he's helped us a lot. But picture The Sims or Animal Crossing mixed with Zoom. That's kind of what you get when you use SOWork. So about 1,000 teams around the world use us, and they use us for increased productivity, increased feeling like you're working with your team, and boosting culture as well in remote teams where it might be hard to build that. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Rohin?
Hey, Jason, first of all, thanks for having me on the panel. I'm Rohin Parkar, co-founder, CEO of Spintly. At Spintly, we just do exactly opposite of what Vishal is trying to do, trying to bring people into offices and enter their office spaces securely using smart access technologies, using smartphone-based access, digitizing your access badges, fobs, and keys into your smartphone, and making it seamless for users to access their spaces, and also more secure by using integrations with your identity management systems. We are a white label platform for access management. We work with large corporates and other OEMs who can white label our technology and make it part of their software systems.
Thank you, guys. And thanks again for joining us. Would love to start off with some broad questions for the group. Maybe we can kind of continue along that same pattern of Kurt, then Vishal, and then Rohin on a couple of these. First question I have is, what aspect of the future of work excites you the most, and what aspect concerns you the most?
Yeah, that's a great question. Future work that excites me the most, I think the globalization of the talent pool, right? We work with an engineer out of Uruguay right now. He's a full-time employee. He gets paid probably in the top decile of income in Uruguay, and he's extremely, affordable for us. And we work with a team of folks out of Vietnam, same thing, right? They're full-time employees for LeaseUp. So for us to now have global access to highly, highly talented people is incredible. I think one of the things that scares me is the tax ramifications of the gutting of the office sector in downtown core markets. I don't think people have quite understood what's going to happen with the downstream impacts of having buildings in downtown Boston, where we both are, Jason. Having the value of those buildings get cut by 75% is going to cut the tax revenue of these office buildings by 75% to the city. And in cities like Boston, San Francisco, majority of their tax revenue that they get from real estate, the vast majority is from office buildings. So that's going to have to be something that is going to have to be dealt with. It's going to create significant deficits. So that's one of the things that is certainly fearful to me.
Vishal?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with everything, Kurt, you just said. Like, before we went fully remote, we were downtown Boston as well after we left the iLab. And it, like, so many good memories of in person, but then we can't deny the benefits of remote, like you said. And so one of the things that really excites me about the future of work is same thing. We've got a team all over the world. There are these amazing, beautiful people who never would have had the opportunity otherwise, but they're also insanely talented. So when we went through tough times earlier on in our company's life, they're the ones who stuck around, and they're the ones who helped to bring us where we are today, which is in a much better place. And then the thing that scares me the most, and so generalizing that across lots of companies and lots of people in lots of different countries, like for everybody to get that benefit, I think is super exciting. Not to mention what it does for those local communities as well. The thing that scares me is that CEOs of big companies won't stick with the remote trend and will pull the plug for their employees, like what Amazon is just doing now, when it's too early to do that. So as with everything, we're in the early days and we're working out kinks, and to pull the plug on something that is super beneficial for your company and for your employees without kind of doing due diligence on figuring out why exactly things may not be working the way you want, why your culture may be stagnating, or why your productivity may be low, or people seem disengaged. Like, if all you know is Zoom and Slack, like, of course your team's going to be disengaged if that's what you're using for your remote team, but there's other ways out there. And so for us, it hits home because we think we have a solution for those things, but we're still relatively small. And so I think that's one of the things that scares me, is that I think we're on the verge of doing something really awesome as a sector, and it just needs time to bake.
Thank you for that. Over to you, Rohin.
Yeah, great insights on how you're seeing future of work. I think I didn't even expect this. Like 5 years back that this would be a topic we could discuss, and COVID kind of brought this in front at like how people are going to work. Right after COVID, everybody thought that okay, nobody's going to come ever back to work. Right? It's just going to be work from home forever because people started liking it, and even people said that efficiency are higher, right, to start with, because if people are always able to respond to emails and working all the time. But soon things started changing. The we are all humans. We see each other, we feel each other. Now it's a hybrid reality, right, where some of the people are working from homes, a lot of people are working from offices. Different employers have different rules in terms of what you could do, how many days you have to work, right? So I think the exciting part is, for us at least, right, is how do you make sure that your spaces are being utilized properly? For real estate, you can't really plan because some people are working from home or some people are coming to office. How do you plan for real estate space? How do you not spend too much on space which are not being utilized, right? So you need technologies which will enable you to do is, and access is one of that. So that's something which really excites me. Outside of this domain of my work, other area of which I'm excited is how AI is impacting just the future of work, like how AI assistants are going to be part of your work, right? And how effective they will be in terms of just making your life easier, right? Just responding to emails on your behalf just by understanding the context, for example, right? Today, as business leaders, we tend to miss so many emails because you're flooded with emails, and you just feel like you need an assistant which would just pass through emails and work for you. I mean, that's outside of my domain. I'm really excited about how human productivity can be better. What scares me is security and safety and privacy when we are trying to adopt all these technologies, especially in access technology, where how do you know that the right people are coming into offices, or right people are having access to your resources in terms of digital resources or physical assets, right? And I think that's something we are trying to solve heavily by really adopting right access technologies which are tightly integrated to your identity, right? A digital identity. So smartphones and wearables are being part of all this technology which we're offering to our customers. So yeah, that's what we're excited about.
Thank you. Kind of in line with AI, kind of question number 2, as companies increasingly adopt AI, automation, and other advanced technologies, how do you think that the workforce will need to adapt in terms of skills and overall roles? Back again to you, Kurt.
Yeah, it's actually somewhat similar to one of the other fears that I have, which is I think that if you look at historically what's happened with innovation, specifically over the last 40 years, it's pushed the earning potential farther to an extreme bell curve, right? Where the majority of people in the high end are making the vast majority of the income. And I'm fearful that that's going to continue, especially as, for the entirety of society, most of the time you make money, the input would be your time. But now the input is so much predicated on knowledge and experience, and the output is not just X+1, it's something exponential. So with AI, I think it has the potential to make that even more extreme, where a few people are going to be the ones running massive businesses. Their earning potential is going to be incredible, and they just won't need a long tail of employees anymore. That's scary to me. I think that one of the things that's on the flip side of that is just the amount of innovation that's going to happen. And there's going to be so many small companies that are doing such an incredible amount of work and just things that look like magic. The next 2 or 3 years in the B2B space, some of the features that are going to be used by the average user in a B2B sense that are using AI are truly going to feel like magic. It's going to be incredible. So that's going to be a lot of fun, but obviously it's huge whiplash, huge change coming.
Yeah. Thank you. Over to you, Vish.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. There's we've kind of gone from predictability in terms of development of software and hardware to something that's just completely unpredictable. And maybe it's predictable, but it's not predictable to the vast majority of people. And so like it's hard to plan, right? The capabilities that are going to be available to us. It's like, okay, well, this is how our financial model looks, and this is how our roadmap looks, and this is what our headcount looks like. But 6 months later, something comes out that completely changes that, like 100%, like 180 degrees rather. And it's like, okay, we're gonna have to go and replan. It could be in a positive direction, it could be in a negative direction because you got Jaspered or OpenAI'd when you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing could happen. And that's pretty scary because a lot of people have jobs that may be at risk. So one of the things that we are looking into developing is this really interesting way for employees to create AI clones of themselves at work. So in our virtual offices, we have like a very small group of customers that we're testing this with, but we'll allow them to record all of their interactions, their video, their voice, their avatars' movements, who they talk to, how they respond to things, etc. And then we build a little cognitive language model based on how they behave in meetings, so that they can eventually create a clone of themselves that they can then send off to meetings. And it's like obviously a bot version of themselves. We clearly market, but they can, these bots can then respond as if, as the human would have responded, or carry out tasks the way that the human would have done so. So the reason that we're trying to do that is so that we can, these models stay the property of the person who they're trained on. We don't have any like right to the data or the algorithm, right, or the model, right? Because we want these people to have individual ownership of these models, not the companies they work for, but them, so that if they do get displaced in some crazy AI, mass layoff of all workers in the whole world, then at least they have some agency, and maybe they can get their model hired by like 100 different companies to do something that they were super specialized at, and they trained their model really, really well during their time on SOWork, right? So like then at least they have some kind of it's almost like gig economy, but for your brain. So anyway, I'm going to stop rambling because that's obviously, pretty cool tech that we're working on, but it's not unveiled or anything like that yet. So it's just an interesting space right now. And I think people are going to have to think really, really differently to try to provide some protection for people who might end up on the wrong side of things.
Absolutely. Over to you, Rohin.
Yeah, I'd love to experience what Vish and his company is building. I recently used a few Apple Vision Pro a few times, and before you use it, you don't really know. It seems very funny when people are walking around with it, but when you actually wear it and experience it, it's amazing. The experience, how it can track your eyes, and it just kind of reads your mind, right? And that kind of intuitiveness and how it'll affect how you work can just quadruple or your productivity. It's just the form factor is weird right now, but as the technology evolves, it might just become so part of, like how smartphones or wearable devices have become part of your life and you just can't live without them. Something like a smart glass might be a part of your life and you're just working in the space, right? Like, so there is no difference between the virtual world and the physical world, right? I mean, that's really exciting. I think technology comes in and before you know it takes over your life, right? There was a video I remember, an interview between Bill Gates and David Letterman, and David Letterman is really making fun of Bill Gates when he talks about email, and he's like, what is that email thing which you guys have invented? And it's like, yeah, and Bill Gates explains to him, we do work on that, and he's like just saying, hey, is it a passing fad, right? And that's how things work, right? Today, something like AI seems like, is it really going to have an impact? And before you know it, it'll change your life, right? And that's what's happening. So yeah, so as organizations and as employees or as humans, we need to be aware of this and adopt it rather than resist it, right? So how do you make yourself more productive by adopting AI chatbots or assistants, and how do you incorporate within your work culture is very important for both employers and employees.
Yeah, absolutely. From the VC side, I feel like there's almost an AI assistant for everything these days. And one thing that I and the team always find very interesting is think back kind of in the internet in terms of technology. This is really the early days of these AI agents, AI assistants, and they're very useful, helping with a lot of innovation, saving a lot of time. So I'm very interested to see kind of how it grows throughout the next couple of years for sure. Moving on, third question. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think one of the things that like fascinates me is we work with a lot of like major enterprise companies, and they all are trying to do things that are using an AI internally. But so much of the industry that we work in are these large enterprises actually talking to each other in the course of transactions and trading data in the course of transactions. And I'm just so interested for the point at which they allow these AIs to have conversations with each other. Now today, we kind of sit as pipes in the communication. And so hopefully we can start to do things where we earn the trust to be able to allow them to do that. But I'm just seeing every vertical, every AI application I'm seeing in B2B right now that's selling into the enterprise is for the enterprise to use internally, which I get, like that is the holy grail right now, being able to talk to your internal documentation. I'm just really excited to see the communication between them start to happen. That's where today I think network effects are so important and what allows you to have staying power when this all starts to take place. But like when those AI agents start to be able to communicate with each other and you can set the rules and parameters, I mean, that's where things are going to get very, very interesting, I think.
Yeah, great point. Moving on to the next question. What are some of the biggest challenges in balancing a tech-driven efficiency with the need to maintain human connection and creativity in the workplace? Start off with you, Kurt.
Yes, your question was the biggest challenges, Jason?
Yep, biggest challenges in balancing tech-driven efficiency with human connectivity and creativity in the workplace.
I think the biggest challenge is trying to unwind everything we know about running a business from the last 500 years and making a new way to work, right? Like that's a big, big undertaking. Everyone's learning at the same time here as we go forward. There's a massive, massive shift that had happened with remote work that got, just got a lot larger and started moving a lot faster with the advent of what's happening with AI, right? So I think that's the biggest challenge, is trying to figure out a new way to work and figure out what that balance is. Like, I don't know if everyone has the perfect answer yet. I think one of the things that we just did a big offsite with our team, and I was struck by the impact it had on morale, the impact it had on kind of progress of major projects that we're starting to do. So there certainly is something that will always remain, I think, and you're always going to need it. I think that no one's found the perfect balance yet. And listen, like it could be in 5 years, everyone says, no, the perfect balance is you're in office all the time, right? That could happen. I don't think it will, but it could. But I think that as we try to figure that out and people iterate through that process, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for us, is trying to find the right balance. So.
Yeah. Over to you, Vish.
Yeah, what a great way to summarize that. Great. I tend to agree. Like, I alluded to this earlier, but my whole team used to be in person at the iLab, and then downtown Boston. And I'm like a super in-person person, right? Like I love in person. So it was like, it's kind of ironic for me to be building what I'm building. But the whole goal for me is like, how do we get distributed? How do we get remote to feel like almost as good, right? So that's like my litmus test, is like, I'm a super in-person person. When do I feel like what we're building is like just about there? Because it's all about trade-offs, right? Like there's no perfect solutions, but what kind of trade-offs are we willing to live with? So for any given company, just remember, like, your people are gonna make or break. Obviously there's strategy and there's execution and there's all that stuff, but you're hiring amazing people who really sing your praises from the rooftops is going to be a determinant of how well your company does. And if you can't hire people because they don't want to come into the office 100% of the time, or even 3-4 days a week, well, that's that's going to give you a particular archetype of person, and that that archetype is probably going to be, maybe, I don't know, maybe the less creative type, or maybe the type that doesn't like as much flexibility, or doesn't think in that way, or is a little bit more rigid or whatever. And then that alone en masse, right, at large numbers, is going to take your company into particular directions. And so for us, it's like, it's about figuring out what are the trade-offs that you can live with, where you're seeing the best productivity that you can get while giving your employees things that they really want and value, right? And of course, if we were in a vacuum in a perfect world, all the CEOs would say, great, everybody in the office, 9 to 5, 9 to 10. You know what I mean? Because we're a startup or whatever. But on the employee side, in their vacuum, it'd be like, cool, I'm working on a beach, I'm in Fiji or Hawaii or whatever, right? So like, what's the trade-off there? So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is like, well, in our current softwares, they don't really facilitate great creativity and great sort of flexibility and fast communication. Slack is great, but it's like you're sending texts. Zoom is fine, but you're sending video, right? Like it's not the same as being able to like knock on Rohin's door and be like, yo, you free for a second? Like, can we talk about this thing? Or Kurt, you want to play foosball for a sec? Like it's not the same. And so that's kind of why we're working on this problem that we're working on. And honestly, the customer reaction is kind of ridiculous in a good way. So like, I think we're going down the right path, but that for us is we see that as the biggest challenge, and that's why we're putting so much time into it.
Thank you. Over to you, Rohin.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, right? We're trying to innovate so much on how we can work more efficiently, become productive, but at the end of the day, companies are about people and it's about culture, right? So if you want to really be successful as a business, first of all, you need the right culture. And the only way I feel you could transfer culture and, you know, talk about culture is in person, right? There's a body language to it, which you can't just convey over video or phone, right? So, and if a company needs to survive long term, that culture needs, the bigger you get, it's harder to, you know, transfer this culture to all your employees. I mean, you've seen Microsoft struggle, you know, before Satya Nadella came in, and he had to completely revamp the culture and make it, you know, more towards embracing new technology, right? So every company struggles like that. So I just came back from our leadership meet in India. You know, it's so important to have everybody in the room brainstorming and talking about what next, right? So otherwise, companies, you have so many examples where companies have died because they haven't innovated enough, and that comes down to everybody having that mindset. So I think, to your point where you say creativity and culture, I think that's something which will always drive people back to office and work, and leadership will already knows that, and that's why you see leaders are forcing people to come back to work, right? So that they can have those conversations at the water cooler or in the pantry room, right? Have this conversation, and that's where new ideas will come out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have just enough time to maybe go around and do one individual question for each panelist. We'll go back to Kurt since we've been kind of going in a circle here. So my question to you is, with the rise of remote work, have you seen any shifts in the commercial real estate market, and how is your company adapting to these changes?
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole industry's changed, right? And but it's a good thing, I think, that we're seeing innovation happen. I think that a lot of this industry has been stuck in it. I mean, it's the largest asset class in the world, right? And it really is one of the last industries that hasn't gone through really any digital transformation. So for a long time, they didn't have to, right? Deals were happening the same way too. We're making a lot of money, but I think what's happened because of COVID and the rise of remote work is that it's pushed, you know, wind at our sails and wind at the sails of innovation in this industry, right? So I think like what I see happening, if you look back 15 years, the average lease length in the industry is about seven years, right? It was tapering down, hit about 5 years when COVID hit, right? So it was already trending down in a significant way. What that means is deals are more flexible, deals are happening more often, brokers had to do more deals to make the same amount of money. That trend's continuing. So you're going to see the lease length continue to get more and more flexible. I think what's going to end up happening in the future is you're going to see companies doing a blend of lease transactions, right? They're going to have a headquarters lease. Maybe that's 3, 5, 7 years long. They're going to have a network of small independent offices around them. Then they're going to have probably some flexible space. And maybe they'll use a product like Vicious for a lot of the in-between kind of, virtual work they're doing as well. What we do as a business and why we think this is a good thing for us is as the flexibility increases in the market, more and more tenants need a way to be able to organize this, right? It becomes extremely problematic for them to organize the multitude of leases they have, all the different all the different constituents they have to work with during the transactions. It just gets really hard. And it's not their specialty, right? The brokerage, that is their specialty. They want to help tenants with that. They don't have the ability to build technology to do that. The last thing I'd say is the future of this industry, what was always going to happen is that the tenant was going to have a single spot where they logged in, like I logged into my Fidelity account today, right? They log in, they see all the different leases they have, they learn about the market, they can transact instantly and digitally. If they want to do something more complex, they can talk with their advisor, just like I do today financially, right? That's just the future of this industry is going to be. It was always going to be that. It was always what the future was going to be. But what's just happened, and again, it just is, it's increased the speed with which this is going to take place from 10 years out to probably like 3.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Over to you, Vish. My question to you is, how does SoWork address the challenges of maintaining team cohesion and culture in a fully remote or hybrid work setting?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, that's kind of what we were built for, right? Like, so the so in SoWork actually means social online. And so it's like part of the name, right? Both culture, both social and workplace is in the name. And so for us, it's like there's a certain something that you get by seeing people in the room at the same time. And so that's one of the first things that we wanted to bring back. It all kind of happened because I used to play World of Warcraft a lot. I'm not proud, but no, I'm pretty proud of it. This is when I was like 18, 19, and like it was crazy the amount of work it was to organize like 40-man raids. And if people, I don't know if any of the attendees know what that means, but it's just something really nerdy. You had to get a bunch of nerds together, on their computers around the world and get them to fight things together and coordinate and all that stuff. So I was like always surprised by how we worked really, really hard together to organize these fights, but we remained super tight like decades later. Like there's a guy, my current CTO, Mark, he's our founding CTO as well. Like he and I met playing World of Warcraft, right? We ran like a raiding guild together. There's a guy who I met who invested a couple $1 million into SoWork, and we met like 20 years, like I guess 17 years ago, right? When I was 18. Like you can build these really, really strong connections if you're doing things online together, even if you're in different parts of the world, if the medium is right? And so that's the type of thing that we're trying to create for teams. We know it's possible. I've done it personally when I was 18 years old, and look at what's happened today with those relationships. I know it's possible. So now we're just changing the environment, and we're changing the use case rather, from leisure gaming to workplace gaming. And for us, the timing is perfect because all those 30-somethings who used to play games like this, RuneScape or Ragnarok or Warcraft or anything like that, like they're the ones who are leading companies now, or in senior positions in companies. So it makes a lot of sense to, and it will make more and more sense as the Minecraft and the Roblox and the Fortnite generation grows up. So we think culture is going to mean something very different than it does today when those kids grow up, right? And they're in their late 20s now. It's crazy. So for us, we think we're building in the right direction, and that's being able to see each other together in the same room, being able to express yourself from a visual perspective, whether that's like customizing your office and building out a new floor plan, or having your pets follow you around, or shooting your teammates with tanks. We just launched this game called Tank Wars for employees to play together. Like all of these things really do matter, because those are the things you do on offsites when you're in person. It's just a lot more inexpensive. So anyway, we're going to keep working on it, and we'll see what happens next year on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. Thank you for that. Over to you, Rohin. As the future of work becomes more decentralized, how do you see smart credential systems and IoT-enabled access management evolving?
Yeah, so right after COVID, we saw a big jump in what we were building in terms of digital credentials for office spaces, and that trend is continuing. The thought that you have to collect your physical badge at work is that itself is going away, right? That it's so hard for you to go and collect your physical badge. It's just obvious that your badge needs to be digital, and how do you deliver it to the right person securely? That itself is a big problem we're trying to solve for enterprises. That's where we have to partner with folks like Apple or Google, who are controlling identities of users, or Microsoft Active Directory, and then how do you securely bring that into your device and convert it into a digital badge which can be presented at the door, right? So and this is just starting off now. It's just beginning of how access is becoming part of your devices, also going into your wearable device, right? And it's a fine line between privacy, security, and flexibility, which you have to walk, where users are not really comfortable somebody capturing their face on a camera, which happens in other parts of the world, where in India, for example, we have huge business where people are okay where facial recognition cameras are detecting faces and opening doors, but that doesn't work, say, in this part of the world, right? So as a business, you have to also consider cultural and regional preferences and be able to offer solutions to customers based on their preferences. So in India, we do a lot of facial recognition based integrations with third-party devices, where in the US, we focus on mobile credentials, digital credentials, which are in your phone. So you are in control as a user. You can turn it off when you want, and you can specify how you want to interact. So you want, say, on a specific door, you can say that, hey, I want facial recognition to be done on my phone, and only the door can open, right? So you are in control. So that works in Europe and, say, US more. So yeah, really excited about how our technology gets adopted in the future of work, especially when it comes to access.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we're about up on time. Thank you, the three of you, for joining today. I really enjoyed speaking, and big fan of all three of your businesses, of course. Thank you again for joining today.
Pleasure. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Amanda, could we pull up the last slide, please? Awesome. Thank you. So thanks again for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed the discussion. Thank you again for tuning in. If you would like to learn more about the AV Seed Fund, please check out av.vc/seed fund, or email us at investor.relations@av.vc. Also, just want to let you guys know that we will be sharing the blog, which was kind of written before this webinar was put together. We'll be attaching that in a kind of follow-up email to everybody who registered today. So thanks again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.